Hi everyone, my name is Paul, or Reverend Dr. Paul Luftenegger, and I'm an international multi-award winning singer, songwriter, composer. I write conscious kind music, and I'm on a tour, Love Expanding Love, around the world right now. And we're in Liverpool, England with my good friend Jimmy Bongo.
My name's Jimmy Bongo. I'm a comedy conscious poet, event organiser. I do poetry to uplift people and share my journey on what I've been through in life and try to do it with comedy and a bit of humour.
So, here we are.
Yeah.
In your beautiful crystal shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, your daughters obviously have a hand in the crystal world.
Yeah. We practical magic because they're both healers and they're very conscious beings anyway. They do a lot in the community and things like that. But it's good for you to have you here. And we met. It was like a coming together, wasn't it? It was divine, wasn't it? When you think about it, I think Kate Lumley had a lot to do with.
Yeah, so I think just, one of the things that I love about the fact that we met this way is the universe sort of aligned this divine moment where this person 4 years ago was in a car accident, just to sort of tie that in. And she, as she almost lost her life. 2 other people died in the accident. And then, 4 years later, here we are, and we all came together to sort of help her and support her healing. Me as a singer, you as a poet. We had Kate, who sort of inspired everything, and Dr. Joe Delaney. And that's one of those things where you just kind of go, wow. And then, on my Love Expanding Love tour, I really wanted to come and meet everybody and support sort of this healing. So
it was pretty cool. It was a powerful event, and it was the fact that the 4 of us helped her on Louise on her journey, because she was in a wheelchair.
For almost a year, I think.
For almost a year. And then she connected with Joe first, Dr. Joe. Then Kate, and then I met her, and then she connected with you as well.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is, she didn't know that any of us knew each other. No. So that was sort of, when she realized we all knew each other, I didn't know you. You're the only person, so you're sort of...
I only knew Lou. I only know Dr. Joe and Kate and yourself. It was only through her that I met the rest of you.
Yeah, and I think just, one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about today was men's mental health. And mental health in general, but something that I think is really beautiful in your poetry, which I've learned about since meeting you, is that you speak to a lot of the things about being an emotional man. And as a child, I know many of us boys and the men that we become.
We're meant to man up and like.
Well, and boys don't cry is the big thing, right? So boys don't cry, boys don't have emotion. Well, men do, and men definitely have emotion. Men definitely cry. I wrote a song about that. I know you have poetry about that. So I think we're in this time where we're really starting to.
If you don't talk about your feelings and then you suppress them, they're going to come up somewhere, and I think that's why the suicide rate is so rapid at the minute, and it's the amount of men that are taking their own lives is shocking.
It's a shocking
young
thing.
Men as well.
Yeah, and I know for me, with my father taking his own life in 2011, that was really the start of my journey doing what I do, and the reason why I do what I do is because I know that no matter who you are, everyone struggles with self-worth. Everyone, even if people don't admit it. I know that's something that I am constantly reminded of in my work. And people always come up to me and tell me things they've never told anyone, because I think when you're honest about your emotions, you give people permission to sort of open up. So this is the sort of thing that I think is important about the work that you're doing too.
Because I have a saying that salvation lies within. It means like self-love is the key to salvation. Where if you have self-love, which men are not taught self-love, well, we're not taught self-love in society.
No, we're not.
If anything, we're taught the opposite. We're taught fear and loathing and how to make you feel small and things like that. But I think once you, I went through depression myself, and for me, it was like a liberating
Experience.
It was a liberating experience. It was like a spiritual awakening. God found me faith again. But to me, it was, I put the meat suit down. I put this down, and I don't know. I was like, I'm having a deep rest.
I have to tell you the thing that you said so quickly, and I know for people, but the meat suit.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that you talk about, and you know, this body that we have is a temple, actually, but it also, if you're really aware of it, you know, what are you inside?
Spiritual beings having a human experience.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, and I think we're not taught about that. I think I was raised Catholic, and soon I rebelled from the age of 7 or something like that. I was like, I couldn't grasp what you would do. And back then they used to beat you up.
Right. So I know you laugh, but it's
used to beat you.
I always say if we were,
we laugh about it, but I mean,
a lot of people that we know from our childhoods should probably, you know, in today's time, probably might be in prison.
Yeah, they would be definitely in prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick you up by the ears and things like that, you know. And like, I just rebelled against that, and I would never really resonated with the church. But when I went through what I went through, which was, it was brought on by substance abuse and alcohol.
Right.
After my mum died, I started drinking heavily and using substances, and I sort of lost myself. I lost I lost my spirit a little bit, and then I had a deep rest, and then my healing journey started, and I had like a real spiritual awakening where it was just like, I was like, wow, this is like.
It's similar. I know when my dad died.
I think trauma does.
Trauma does that.
It triggers that.
So
you know,
the death
out of the darkness come out the light, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah, and the death. I know. They always say there's different roads in spiritual, you know, sort of awakening. But I know for many, it's through trauma, through you know, sometimes through recovery, through drugs, you know, addictions. And then sometimes people just, you know, do
just
happens. It just miraculously happens too. So there's no set.
Well, I've heard people say like, "Oh, he's having a midlife crisis."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm having a spiritual awakening, man.
Yeah, and I know the thing that when you start, you know, serving others.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I think happens when you start serving others. You end up sort of helping yourself. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that I think is beautiful about your story.
Well, I think also when you're broken, other people feed off you. So, you know, like, and I noticed that when I come away from certain aspects of my life, like people got like a cobble and things like that, and like angry and like, cause you know. But I basically unlearned everything that I'd learned, and then I could relate to like born again Christians and that, even though I'm not, you know, I was just like, I found my faith in the energy of God, like, you know, the universal energy, but it was profound for me, like, and then I started writing the poems. So the poetry was, the poems that I write is like, it's basically my life story. That's what it is. So
well, and I think they're so powerful with the way that they really evoke, I think, things that people think but don't say.
They don't say, yeah.
Right? So I think that's that's the cool part.
You know, like I don't give a shit.
Liberating.
I say stuff where, you know, like mental health and addiction and so forth, things like that. And, you know,
I think you give people permission. You give people permission to sort of identify with how they're feeling. You know, finding the words that they can't find sometimes, right? Yeah.
Well, when you know, people, I think the arts is being suppressed anyway. I think the arts is being suppressed worldwide. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, like the way the fact that it's called the music industry,
Well, and I know one of the things that, how little can Spotify pay you?
Yeah.
They make billions,
Yeah.
and I think it was recently somewhere 11 billion, I think, more recently. And
11 billion.
And how much do they pay their artists that make
3
them
pence.
not even a penny, not even a penny a stream. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a problem.
It's a big problem. I know that Volkswagen owns one of them, doesn't it? Either diesel or
I'm not sure.
I don't
know who owns them, but I know that they're a collective of people that need to be made aware of, I think, what art is worth.
Well, I think they just took it away from the artists. It's the art in the 60s, for me, the artists took it back, but then in the 70s, they took it back off the artist.
Yeah.
And that's when all these contracts looking like, you've heard the saying, the roads to hell are paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
How many artists have been mysteriously died as well when they go to get their try and get the royalties.
Yeah.
Like.
I know, the royalty game. I know I receive royalties, and it's interesting to sort of see all the different pennies come in. They call it the nickel and dime business.
Yeah.
Meaning like there's not a lot paid for streaming. So I think I do want to just sort of touch on this because one of the things that when you don't know this, I don't think people really understand that they're not really generating any capital for artists.
No.
So I don't think there's any fault to the listener, but I think we do need to educate the listener.
Yeah, I think they need educating. I think people need to go back to buying CDs and LPs and stuff like that.
And I think just when you
don't, vinyl.
I've often said when you don't have a physical item, people forget about what art even is. So I know as an artist, it's an intellectual property, per se. But if you can't see it, does it exist?
Yeah, what I've heard the saying, just because you come up with something, that doesn't mean you own it.
Yeah, it's true.
So they basically just say, they take what you've channeled.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, we're at that precipice where we just need to identify what the need is for humanity and reevaluate, and we can build whatever we want as humans, right?
I think so.
So, and it begins by a conversation.
Well, I think we're in the middle of the biggest shift in consciousness that we've ever seen.
Absolutely, 100%.
There's so many amazing things happening around the world, but I don't watch television or watch nonsense. I don't.
I can't
I call
admit
it the
the
bad
same.
news. I call it the bad news. I call it. What's on the bad news today?
I am very selective about what I watch.
Yeah,
but I do love a good comedy too. I love a good movie.
I love a good comedy.
I think art, like the point. I think that I feel like you just also have to remember that there's it's all about balancing out too.
Of course.
But I get why you don't watch TV.
Oh no! I while I was going through me depressed, the television programme was. As I call it.
I know. And the thing
I used to give me anxiety.
Yeah.
Used to give me anxiety.
Yeah. And I know the thing after my dad died, I couldn't watch any. I don't know if you know, in America they have like Dateline and the shows that show the murders, and I couldn't watch any of those shows.
I don't know.
It took me years to even be able to.
I've never watched horror films or anything like that. I've never liked anything like that. I was a bit of a scaredy cat,
Yeah.
Bit of a cow, a Frankie Howard, as we call it, bit of a coward.
Yeah.
That was a bit of Scouse Rama slang.
Yeah, it's fun. So tell me some poetry.
Yeah.
Give me something. I'm curious.
I'll do one about Liverpool first.
Okay.
This is called This River Runs Deep. I was born in this city, ran by the tenements. The fellow would come knocking and we never had the rent. We would have been evicted and thrown onto the street. Though it never happened to us, it was kind of bittersweet. I lived by the River Mersey and the current, it was wild. And it got into my blood when I was just a child. The ley lines in the city gave me a positive vibe. I've had the same mates since I was 11 and they'll always be my tribe. The river is so powerful and it's like a big conduit. I didn't understand it then, but I think I always knew it. The poison from the factories have never held their back. And then there's evil governments trying to paint this region black. We had the biggest port in the world. We had billions coming ashore till a woman named Margaret Thatcher said, "You're not having that no more." But if you are from Merseyside, black, yellow, white or brown, we always stand to be counted and never take things lying down. When it's wild upon the seafront, it can look a little sinister, and the energy that we have here, they don't like in Westminster. But why the River Mersey means so much to me is when the people are united, that river becomes a sea. And this is called Men's Hill, and this is about men's mental health. If you are a man and you talk about your feelings, when people get uneasy and you just start reeling, is there something wrong with you? Thinking like that. Yeah, mate, it was a favour. What are you playing at? But if people can't talk about how they feel, it'll build up and you'll never heal. This isn't healthy for nobody's state, because it can end in self-harm or by sealing your own fate. Suicide rate is alarming for men at the minute, because depression doesn't tell you or warn you when you're in it. It's just built up in our society, and when men have it, they say, "Oh no, not me." I had depression, so do a lot of folk, but some people just pass it off or laugh it off as a joke. The suicide rate is on the increase, but to the big pharma, it's like a golden fleece. If you go to the doctors, they put you on pills, and this is surely something that will never cure your ills. Talking to someone, now this is a start, and sharing your feelings straight from the heart. Just suck it up, lad. That's the old way. And if a fella shows his feelings, "Oh yeah, mate, that's gay." But we are all human and we feel the same. And it's a thing called life and no one is to blame. So if someone has depression, try and give them a bit of hope. Because so many people recently have ended it with a rope. So if depression comes knocking, banging on your door, it doesn't really care if you're rich or poor. Please find some solace, confide in a friend, and tell depression to leave and say we're on the mend. This is called The Gospel According to Jimmy Bongo. None of the prophets ever wrote a book, so the idea of religion, shall we go and have a look? Matthew, Paul, Peter, to name but a few. They spoke of a Messiah, but what I'm saying to you is this is the gospel according to Jimmy Bongo, about a kid that was born long ago. His name was Yeshua, that's Hebrew, you know, but somehow he got called Jesus, and this child had a glow. So we'll call him Jesus for argument's sake, because we don't want any lightning or any earthquakes. But I used to be a bit of a skeptic of what you could say, because the Hebrew alphabet, it hasn't got a J. So 3 wise men, they came from afar, and they followed the craft, and it wasn't a star. Mohammed, Krishna and Buddha on an horse, and they weren't kings, but they were prophets, of course. They came bearing gifts, frankincense, gold and myrrh, to our little brown prophets who had psychelia hair. No stars don't travel, but spaceships do. Now they're so moody, they're not telling you. So maybe one day when we open our eyes, start critical thinking, and we start acting wise. Because it's not where we start, but it's where we finish. So I get arrested, my plea would be diminished. Because we haven't got a body, and we're not really from here. So why are you stuck in this meat suit to show love over fear? You see, it's a simulation known as the Matrix that will take over your mind and keep your eyes fixed. Stop being sheep and open your third eye and start asking questions like when, where and why. Go and eat some plants with a shaman, of course, and stay off the booze and the drugs or you'll end up divorced. See, you're in a vehicle just like a car. So remember them wise men that followed that star. Because if it is love, why should we fear God? Because when I was growing up, I was more scared of the plot. See, religion equals war, and you not think it's funny. That we know it's nonsense and it's all about money.
So Liverpool, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's a very vibrant place. It's got a lot of ley lines here. Yeah. You know about ley lines. You know what ley lines are. Yeah. And that's why there's so much creativity here. That's why you have like John Lennon, the Beatles, and other famous artists.
I have to tell you too, something that I did not know in my ignorance. I didn't know that, I knew that they were from England, the Beatles and, John Lennon, obviously, being a huge fan of John Lennon, but I had no idea he was from Liverpool. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, he actually only lived, John Lennon only lived about a mile from here where we are now.
Wow.
But he lived in Madder Avenue, and Paul McCartney lived in one lived in Mother Avenue, one lived in what's the other one? So like adjacent.
Yep.
Ringo Starr lived just down the road there. He was in the Dingle. I'm not sure what George Harrison was from. I think he was from round Penny Lane. Maybe.
Cool. We actually went to the real museum here with some of the artifacts from just one of the things that I thought was so interesting, that there was a sheet of a listing of all of the tour dates, and I was very intrigued by, as a musician, that they had to travel and work 5 days a week at different, so they would fly, sing 5 days a week, and they would get 2 days off. But one of the dates on there was actually a concert that my mother went to at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto.
Wow.
And it was really cool. I took a picture, sent it to her, and I think she was 11 years old, and she went to that concert.
Wow,
so just Liverpool affecting, music affecting Canada.
A lot of my in-law family, they used to go to Cavan, and that was like the in place was the Cavan. The original Cavan has been knocked down.
Okay.
But Matthew Steeders is taking the ley line anyway, so the creatives all used to gather there, and like anyone, the pacemakers and the Beatles, the Mersey Beats, they like the sound of the Mersey Beats because it was a unique sound. It was I think it was like started with skittle and rock and roll, like Elvis Presley was influenced them, and Chuck Berry, things like that. Yeah. Lonnie Donegan.
It was really interesting, and I know before coming here, I was with Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he was sharing a story about how he met Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So like just being with him, sharing the stage with him where I was before coming here, I thought that was so fascinating because he had met him while he was recording with Stevie Wonder. And I mean, I had dinner with him, and just that story that he shared was so interesting. And then coming here, not knowing
Stevie Wonder,
amazing. So I just think that the way that God works in synchronicity, and then to meet you and to sort of open up what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the way that the heart works.
Yeah, of course. When you're heart sensitive and you do things instead of doing things with your head, when you do it with your heart. For me, it's so much more satisfying.
Well, it opens the soul.
Yeah,
and the destiny and the potential energy starts stirring, and then you start meeting people that are meant to be on your path.
But I think when a lot of artists when they start out, all these people who've made like millions and millions of money and things, but the performing is what they love doing.
Yeah.
At the end, you just love performing, don't you? It's like
I think so. I have to say, I'm not a huge performer, so I it's funny with my music. I like the fact
yours is more intimate, isn't it?
It's so more I think it's funny because as a singer, one of the things I absolutely don't like is when people just say entertain me.
Oh,
and they turn on a button and say like, make me
like a performer monkey.
Yeah. So I have to say, like, I don't know how they feel. But I think sometimes I think that if you for instance, I was sort of surprised recently where I was doing a concert and people were leaving while I was singing. And these are the kinds of things that as a performer, I don't think that people realize what that feels like when you're opening your heart and people leave. And it's one of those things. Nina Simone, I know that she would stop a whole show and say, she would say, "Are you done? Are you done?" And then she would start the show again once they left.
Yeah.
But it's very. I think I think being a musician or being a performer is so much harder. I know what you do. I know sometimes you have to be in the right mood.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I've got to be in the zone. You've got to be in the zone, otherwise it's
not real.
It's not real.
Yeah, you're not authentic.
You're not connected.
You're not connected to your soul.
I've done quite a lot of events over the last few years, and they're always sober events. What I do.
Yeah.
To help people in recovery, or because I think when you perform in bars and things like that, or when there's alcohol involved, it's just.
I can't even imagine.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's hard enough to do without alcohol.
It's hard enough to do it without everyone being boozed up.
I know most people, like a lot of, if you listen to singers too, they like getting boozed up before they go and sing. I don't know how you could do that.
No.
I could never do that.
No,
but I think it's called liquid fear, right? Or but you know, it takes liquid courage. Yeah.
Touch courage to go, don't
they? Yeah.
Touch courage. I used to do them in the bar. I used to do events called, I think called Freedom of Speech.
Yeah.
And I run one called Freedom of the Mind, which was promoting artists basically. And we'd do like a documentary of the performances. But when I've done them in the bars, I'd be like a lion tamer because I'd be sober and people would be like.
I can't even imagine.
You know, like and
crazy.
You know, it was just it is. So I like to do performance sober events. I don't particularly do them where there's alcohol involved.
It's too much.
It's too much for me. I don't want to turn into the Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster. yeah. That's fine.
You know,
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like you told. I heard your music. When I heard your music, I was like, wow. It was like proper connected with the heart space.
Yeah.
It reminded me of my mother.
Yeah.
When I was just like, it was sort of comforting when I heard the angels.
The angels are listening.
The angels are listening, and I was like, oh wow.
One of the things that I think is really cool. So in this crystal shop, I know yesterday I bought Kyle Gray's deck of cards, one of them. And I think it's so cool because I'm going to be with him.
You're going to be
literally.
With him next week,
so I love that I bought them specifically at your daughter's store.
Yeah.
So I think just filming here is just really extra.
It's
cool.
a magical place. It is. It
really
is
surrounded by these crystals and we have more dream catchers in the room than I've ever seen in my life.
So, but it is a magical place. When I have to open. I only do like the odd days here and there because the girls run the business.
But you enjoy
I
it.
I enjoy coming in, and I do the Reiki as well myself and helping people. Just coming in and people who are struggling because I've been through the mental health thing and the alcohol and stuff like that.
It's funny.
I can relate to people. So
I want to tell a crystal story. This is actually kind of cool. It just popped into my head. But one of the things that I did for the first concert I did, my first big show was in 2014, and I did it in my hometown. And that's kind of where I really started. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did is I gave a crystal to every single person that came to that show. And what's really interesting is there's this one man, I won't name his name, but he actually carries that crystal around. He doesn't believe in, I don't think God, doesn't believe in, a whole lot of things other than, I guess you would say an atheist.
Yeah.
But he always carries that crystal from that concert. And I feel like, people have to find their own way, is sort of my point. And I think crystals are so beautiful that way.
Yeah, I think so. I think, if they connect you, if it does the job,
they're
like
grounding.
I always say, how you get there, it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there, Like for me, religion is the same horse, different jockey. It's just like, it's all the same story. It's all the same thing. As long as you get there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there.
I interviewed this woman. She actually was. She asked me. She was a big fan of my music, and she was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. Mm-hmm. And she asked me if I could, about a month before she died, she actually asked me if I would be willing to interview her and also come to her funeral. And I agreed to interview her. And one of the things that she said, to your point, is she said, and she had a really good sense of humor in the last month of her life, but she said, God doesn't care if you call God pepperoni. And I remember thinking that was so funny. And
please, pepperoni, I have that. Forgive me.
That's one of those things. Whenever I think, that I always think of her.
Because I had a big connection with Louise A. Louise A. For me, probably saved my life.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
probably saved my life because.
Do you know she was married to a British guy?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. He actually left. He left her, and that's when she decided to start doing what she did. But 14 years, I think, after it,
Was
they
that
were
he was
married.
very abusive? Was that him?
No, he was
Was
he
he
was
okay?
he was a Brit, and I don't know a lot about him, but his last name is Hay. But I know that he left, essentially had another woman and left her, and she thought she was just getting her life together, and then she went to something, the Power of the Mind event that she wasn't going to go to, and that's what changed her life. And if she didn't go to that event, you wouldn't know her, kind of, because that. And if he didn't,
Well,
did the divorce.
you actually see your song was played at her 90th birthday party, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I my song "My Heart" was used for her 90th birthday in San Diego in 2016. It was, yeah.
If some of my mate was doing something like that, I'd be like, okay, I'm good to go home now.
Yeah, that was a cool day.
I've done my job.
Yeah. That was
But I mean, the actual work is so powerful that but it's so simple.
So there's two things. I'm actually a licensed and registered Heal Your Life teacher.
Yeah.
So I've done that course, and the thing, like, as a facilitator of that work, one of the things that's so interesting, every time I have a group where they come together, there's always two things that people don't sort of think of, and it's that I am safe.
Yeah.
So she's known for affirmation. So I always like to remind people, I am safe. It's only change.
Yeah.
That's her big one. And then the other thing is, to love yourself and to do mirror work and actually look in the mirror and say, I love you to yourself. And that's...
that's with me. That was one of the biggest things was because it was self-loathing, and it was lack of self-love and belief in myself, and she actually brought that out in me.
She reminded you of what matters.
Of the child within when I was a kid, because I was a funny kid, man.
Yeah. And the thing, being a facilitator too, one of my favorite parts of her work, and it's when you witness. So one of the things that she invites people to do is to bring the child with you, into your everyday life.
Yeah.
And she was known.
That's why,
live.
I brought
bring
that
the
back
child
because I was always very.
Yeah.
I think that's what the secret is.
I think that you're a child before you're an adult, so that the child can heal you.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, totally. You come in all seeing, all knowing, and then you get a lot of BS put on you, and conditioning and things like that. You don't do it like that. You do it like this, and especially when I was growing up, I would give them a clip around the ear. They used to call it a clip around the ear.
Clip around you.
Clip around the ear. Nowadays, it'd be locked up the way the clips used to get around the ear. But I mean, it was all about self-worth. It was low self-esteem. It was just like singling you out and
shaming you.
wrong, do it again, and no right on it. For me, just let it flow. And I've got grandchildren now, and I just let them be.
Yeah.
And just let them evolve, and don't,
Well, the biggest thing to do is to not break a child's
can teach
spirit.
us more.
You don't break a child's spirit.
Well, that's what, for me, that was what the school was. The schooling system was it was like, they were like mini prisons for me. That's what I felt like. I left at 13, I just started off. Went my own way and just done my own thing. But the actual, I went to Catholic school, and it was basically primary school. They were primary year for the hamster wheel.
Yeah, the hamster wheel.
Primary year for the, get on the treadmill.
I think the thing that is really hard about that too is I think it's so, you had a bad experience with school, and I think that's not uncommon. And on the same sort of conversation, I had teachers that I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have good teachers. Yeah. So I have compassion for you that you didn't get good teachers.
Yeah, good teachers. I did have one or two good teachers. Yeah. We had Miss Jones, and she was lovely. She was like she was like a white witch. She was like
an angel.
Amazing. She was like a proper angel.
Yeah. She
was like me first year teacher in the junior school, because I had a bit of trauma from at 6. But and then when I went to junior school, she was like just unbelievable. She was just like so loving, supportive, just amazing woman. Because we left that school, like there were nuns used to teach in that school, and the new school we went to, they weren't nuns. There was a few ex-nuns and that, but she was lovely. And
those are the teachers that, like, I think truly, I know I had such great teachers, and I was so blessed to have teachers that saw me. I had a couple of really bad teachers.
Yeah.
But I think to the point, I actually think that we just need to have better educators.
Well, I think the curriculum needs to change. I think the whole system needs to change.
Yeah.
Because what they're teaching kids is they're not educating them. They're uneducating them for me.
Yeah.
We actually had a teacher called Mr. Meany.
Mr. Meany?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was a meanie.
That's not good.
He used to just batter you with the state, because he used to get the cane.
Really? Wow.
He used to get like a piece of wooden thing you had to put your hand out and like.
I wouldn't want to go to that institution either.
Oh, it was
that's crazy.
It was.
Well, we've made some progress since then. It's not
yeah,
legal to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, I also think that you also experience that it's abuse.
Well, I think it's not Victorian. A child should be seen and not heard. No, a child should be heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
The wisdom that, for me, people say innocence. It's innocence. What children have, they have an innocence that we don't possess because we forget.
But I think the awakening, like what you're talking about, is that's actually you remember
it. It is, it's the Christ within, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always go within.
It was always within you. Everything external is not really.
After my dad died, that was the one thing that I had a really profound 3 solid months with God. And that was really the inner journey of grief. And I remember somebody trying to convince me to take a pill. So there were these little blue pills, and I remember I was like, no. I know I needed to feel to heal, right?
Yeah, that's what you.
So grief was an opportunity to sort of what was going on, and I knew I didn't want to numb that. But I remember, and each to their own. But for me, I needed to go through my grief.
Yeah. Well, that was my mum. That's
when I started singing.
Yeah. My mum and dad died within 12 weeks of each other, so that was
a lot of grief.
I had 3 young children, 3 little girls, and I sort of like growing up in that. What's up here? Like that macho man, like that man up. Well, I don't even know what that means. Man up.
Man up.
Yeah. But I suppressed the emotion, and
well, that stuff has to come out.
It's got to come up.
Got to come out.
It's got to come up. And when it about 2014, that I sort of like hit the wall and all these emotions, and I was the same as you. I went in the stillness, but there was something comforting within it. Something, stillness was what it became me.
They say that there's a place in the soul that's never been wounded.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. Yeah. And the thing I was going to say when I was in that space myself, and I'm sure you can relate to it, is that you have this opening that, it's so unfortunate if you don't know what to do with it. And I think just with what, and I think a lot of times I remember, I've seen so many times where people use drugs and alcohol and that, and I understand why they do, because it's very emotional. Yeah. But at the same time, though, it's where your soul really feels itself. Yeah. Because your heart opens.
Well, when you're completely sober and meditation was a big thing for me.
Yeah, that's when I started meditating too.
And writing. Yeah. The poetry was my healing as well. Yeah, beautiful. Because I wrote all of my pain down, and I wrote it in comedy, a lot of it. I tried to express it within like a conscious comedy, and
a conscious comedy.
Where you're not with, like you say, the taboo subjects, but try and make light of them so you can. Because I was a big Dave Allen fan, a big Eddie Griffin fan. I like comedy. I love comedy. Yeah.
I like Eddie Murphy too.
I like Eddie Murphy. Yeah,
Eddie Murphy.
He's a funny guy.
When I was a kid, I loved.
I did.
When I was a kid, I remember that. What was that one where he was? Mortimer. I can't
Oh,
remember.
the Trading Places.
Trading Places, yeah.
One of the
That
best
was
films I've ever
great.
seen.
When I was a kid, I watched that over and over
Oh,
with Jamie Lee Curtis.
What he says about the bath when
Yeah.
we had to fart in the tub.
that whole thing. So comedy is funny, like
Yeah.
how it lubricates. They say laughter is the lubricant of
Yeah,
love. You know,
Yeah.
like, so I think
well,
that's
it's when
beautiful.
you're joyous, isn't it? When you laugh, it's like when you dance and
Yeah.
you're in the
Lifted.
flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're lifted.
Yeah.
You know.
Beautiful.
I've got a twinkle toes. I used to like a little
Twinkle
boogie.
toes. Yeah.
I used to like a little boogie, but I don't move as well as I used to now.
The Brits dance better than Canadians, I think, in my opinion.
I do a bit. My daughter sees Daddy's doing white boy dancing.
Yeah, that's fun.
Like sit down, Papa.
Yeah, sit down, Papa.
Yeah, but
Beautiful.
I think like I think people are becoming more aware of mental health now.
Yeah,
I think they are becoming more aware, and a lot more people are talking about it.
And I think to your point, and I think it's a good place to sort of like, tie into this ending or the pause to be continued. But I think it's time for us to all stand up with awareness to, I think, actually men and mental health a little bit more than we've been doing.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with a conversation.
Yeah, but definitely, talking is the start, and it's I think men have been battered a little bit because
they have been battered a lot.
Battered a lot.
I'm going to say that out loud, a lot.
And
I think men do it to men.
Yeah.
I think women do it to men.
Yeah.
I think people do it to people.
Yeah.
But I think that men are really hard on men. I want to just say something out loud here too. Is men need to stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Yeah. Stop it. Men need to stop belittling other men.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
When they do that, other people do that.
Yeah, it's ego. It's usually over ego when they get triggered, and if they see something. Usually it's if someone's looking good or something like that, and they'll have a go at them because they're not.
They go physical.
It's a reflection of what's within them, and then they do go physical.
They go physical,
and then
I think
that macho thing comes in. And you go, hey, and then that's how wars are started.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to open the heart, and I think the other thing too is I always remember Maya Angelou's teaching, and it was always courage. So of all the virtues, courage is the most important one to really value, because with courage, how can you love if you don't have the courage to stand up for love?
Yeah.
How can you possibly not change? If you want to change something, you have to have the courage to say no. That's enough. Yeah. And I think that you have to be willing to do that. And I think that's why courage is so important. So I think in this conversation, more than anything, let's just make this, this maybe statement to just say to everyone, let's stand up with some courage and really change this world by being willing to open your heart and to stand up for love and to stand up for people having emotional intelligence. Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay.
High five.
Thanks, brother. That was really good.
Cool.
God is listening to you. The angels are listening to you too. I am listening to you. The universe is listening to you. To listen is to love. To listen is to care. To listen is to share. Life really loves you. So open up your heart and share the vibration of you. and ask for grace, and be sure to ask for strength. You don't have to do this all alone anymore. You don't have to be afraid. You see, the Lord is with you, beaming through your heart. So open up your heart and ask for what you need. Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel, Sandolph and Metatron are with you. Mother Mary, Saint Bernadette, and Christ's holy love lives inside your sacred heart. Oh, Holy Mother, Holy Father, creation